Sonic the Hedgehog has been around since the 1990s, and it doesn't look like he plans on stopping. I love Sonic, so today I'll be talking about every era of Sonic, from the 1990s to the 2020s. Keep in mind that I might have missed a few games or shows by accident, and I apologize in advance. We are also trying to hit 400 subscribers before 2026, so any help is greatly appreciated. Anyways, enjoy the video. Sonic is one of the most popular platformers of all time. He has been around since the 1990s, and many people grew up with Sonic. But how did Sonic come to be? I'm Doodle Stuff, and today I will be telling you about everything Sonic released in the 1990s. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into it. Before Sonic existed, Mario was on top of the gaming industry. He was unchallenged, and no platformer was more popular than him. But Sega wanted to compete with Mario, so they created a new character, an extremely fast blue hedgehog named Sonic. Sonic the Hedgehog was released on June 23, 1991 for the Sega Genesis. This game was a smash hit. People loved the little blue hedgehog and the speed you could go at in the game. Gamers loved how fast Sonic was able to move around. The game sold around 40 million copies total, with ports and remasters on other platforms throughout the next couple of years. Sonic brought Sega up to the spotlight, and now Mario finally had a worthy rival. On November 21st, 1992, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was released. This game introduced a new character to the franchise, Tails. In Sonic 2, Tails would always be following Sonic around. Tails was not able to go as fast as Sonic, but he was able to fly around while carrying Sonic, helping him reach higher paths on the levels. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 also introduced the Spin Dash, which is one of Sonic's staple moves. When Sonic gets ready for Spin Dash, he curls up into a little ball and charges it up, then lets loose and blazes through the levels at top speed. This ability is still used in Sonic games today. On September 23rd, 1993, Sonic CD was released for the Sega CD. This game introduced two new characters to the Sonic franchise, Metal Sonic and Amy. Metal Sonic is one of Sonic's main rivals. Amy follows Sonic around wherever he goes because she likes him. Sonic CD did introduce a cool new mechanic, time travel. There were three versions of a level, past, present, and future. You will be in the present version of the level when you started it, but there are some signs in the game. If you went through these signs, they could take you to the past and future versions of the level. This was a cool idea, but sometimes you could get hit, or you could hit a sign by accident, and it would disrupt the entire flow of the level that you were playing. That happens quite often, but it was not a major issue with the game. On November 14th, 1993, Sonic Spinball was released. This game was basically just a Sonic pinball game, but it was pretty fun. On February 2nd, 1994, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was released. This game introduced Knuckles, who is still one of the main characters in the series today. This game also introduced a new form for Sonic called Hypersonic. This form was unlocked by collecting all of these Super Emeralds, which are just overpowered Chaos Emeralds. This was the only time Hypersonic was used in a Sonic game, and it does not look like Sega will ever plan to use him again. On October 18, 1994, Sonic & Knuckles was released. This game was originally planned to be part of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Because of time constraints, it was split into two games, Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles. Sonic & Knuckles is basically a continuation of what Sonic 3 started. On March 18, 1994, Sonic Drift was released. This was the first Sonic racing game. Sonic and his friends just drove around in karts. It was not really interesting, but then again, gaming had not entirely developed to have insanely fast racing games like we do today. It also got a sequel called Sonic Drift 2. A bunch of Sonic games were released on the Gamegear. I'm not really going to say a lot about these. Some of them are just 8-bit versions of games like Sonic the Hedgehog 2. The Gamegear games are Sonic the Hedgehog 8-bit, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 8-bit, Sonic Chaos, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Sonic Triple Trouble, Sonic Blast, Sonic Drift 2, Sonic Labyrinth, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and Tails Adventure. On April 21st, 1995, Knuckles Chaotix was released. This game was a spin-off that played similar to the classic Sonic games. It introduced the Chaotix, a group of detectives that still show up in Sonic games today. The Chaotix consists of Vector, Charmy, Espio, Mighty, Ray, and Knuckles. On November 6, 1996, Sonic 3D Blast was released for the Sega Saturn. This game was one of the first Sonic games to not be well received. Sonic 3D Blast was only partially 3D, and the gameplay was too slow and boring, which is not much like the other Sonic games that came before it. On December 23rd, 1998, Sonic Adventure was released for the Sega Dreamcast. This game was the first fully 3D Sonic game, and it was a massive success, and it still holds up very well today. There were 6 stories in the game, each one focusing on a different character. Sonic's story was the best, obviously. In Sonic stages, you use the spin dash to zoom through levels at extremely fast speed. In Tails' story, you have to race against Sonic in every stage and beat him. This game was the best Tails has ever played in any Sonic game because the flying controls are just so perfect. Knuckles' story involved collecting 3 emerald shards per stage, and they would be in different locations every time you played the stage. Amy's stages were slower, but involved doing some puzzle solving. Big stages involved fishing to get Froggy. These were kind of difficult to do, and once you get used to them, they become pretty easy. Gamma stages involved shooting everything around you, which was reused in Sonic Adventure 2. Then, once you completed all 6 main stories, you would unlock the final story, where you had to be Super Sonic and win the boss battle against Chaos. On December 4th, 1999, Sonic Pocket Adventure was released. This game was basically a 2D classic Sonic game, and there's not really much to say about it. Overall, the 1990s are what got Sonic to where he is today. The 1990s sparked the iconic rivalry between Sonic and Mario, which is still going on today. Sonic is my favorite franchise right now, and I can't wait to see what lies ahead for Sonic. That's it for today. Like and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Doo-doo stuff out. Sonic the Hedgehog is doing extremely well in the 2020s, but in the 2010s, he was not doing so well. And the reason behind that is that Sonic did not do so well in the 2000s. At the beginning of the 2000s, some of the best Sonic games of all time were being released, but after a couple of years, the downfall of the Sonic series started to happen. I'm Doodoo Stuff, and today we'll be looking at every single Sonic released in the 2000s. If you liked the video, you should subscribe so we can reach 400 subscribers. Anyways, let's get started. On November 14th, 2000, Sonic Shuffle was released. This game was basically Mario Party, but just Sonic's version. The game's online mode and multiplayer was fun, but nothing truly special. On June 19th, 2001, Sonic Adventure 2 was released. This is considered by many to be the best Sonic game of all time. This game introduced Shadow, which is one of the most popular Sonic characters of all time and Sonic's main rival. This game also introduced City Escape and Radical Highway, 2 of the most iconic Sonic stages of all time. It had 2 stories, Sonic's story and Shadow's story. In Sonic's story, you could play as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. Sonic stages are the best part of the game. Same with Shadows, because they're the same thing. The Tails stages are mech stages, where you shoot everything around you. Knuckles stages are when you collect 3 emerald shards, and they are in different spots every time you play the level. In Shadow's story, you can play as Shadow, Rouge, and Eggman. Shadow is the same as Sonic, Eggman plays the same as Tails, Rouge plays the exact same as Knuckles. These 3 gameplay styles are all very fun. All of these aspects made Sonic Adventure 2 one of the best Sonic games of all time. On February 12th, 2002, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle was released. This was just a port of Sonic Adventure 2, making it available for the Nintendo GameCube. On December 20th, 2001, Sonic Advance was released. This was the first Sonic game released on a Nintendo console. There's not much to say about Sonic Advance. The only real thing that I can say about it is that it is just a classic Sonic-style game, but with modern Sonic. On December 19th, 2002, Sonic Advance 2 was released. This was pretty much the same sort of game as Sonic Advance, but the level design was better, and you could go a lot faster, making Sonic Advance 2 my favorite game in the Advance series. Then, on June 7th, 2004, Sonic Advance 3 was released. Just like the other Advance games, there's not really much to say about this game, but the Advance series is a good amount of fun, and I definitely recommend trying it out. Sonic Heroes was released on December 30th, 2003. This was another adventure-styled Sonic game. The reception for this game is very divided. Some people love the game while others despise it. There were 4 stories in Sonic Heroes, and in each story you played as one team of characters. Team Sonic consisted of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. Team Dark had Shadow, Rouge, and Omega. Team Rose had Amy, Cream, and Big the Cat, the most powerful Sonic character of all time. Team Chaotix consisted of Espio, Charmy, and Vector. There were 3 gameplay types in Sonic Heroes: Speed types, flying types, and power types. You could switch characters in the middle of a stage. It was really cool. Despite having a mixed reception to this day, Sonic Heroes is definitely a pretty good Sonic game, and I recommend that you go try it out. On November 15th, 2005, Sonic Rush was released. This game was basically a 2D modern Sonic game, but it introduced a new formula for Sonic games that is still used today, the boost formula. The boost formula is when, instead of charging up a spin dash or using momentum to gain speed, instead you can hold down one button and Sonic goes extremely fast. The boost mechanic was highly praised and fans loved it. On September 14, 2007, Sonic Rush Adventure was released. This game was basically a sequel to Sonic Rush, and it was also very highly praised. On November 15th, 2005, Shadow the Hedgehog was released. This was one of the first Sonic games in which Sonic was not the main character. The game was mainly focused around Shadow and his conflict with Black Doom. This game was just okay. It was not monumental but not terrible. It just existed and that was it. On November 14th, 2006, Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 was released. This game is referred to most commonly as Sonic 06, and it is considered by many to be one of the worst video games of all time. This game was extremely buggy and unfinished, and it nearly killed the entire franchise. The major complaints about this game were the story, because fans hated characters like Elise, and the loading times. I'm not kidding when I say you could be waiting on a loading screen in this game for around 10 minutes. But why was Sonic 06 so bad? Well, the game was rushed. It's just that simple. It was going to be the game to celebrate the 15th anniversary of the Sonic franchise, and the problem was that the game was just not going to be finished in time. So Sega decided to just rush out the game for the 15th anniversary deadline, and it failed. If Sega had the developers finished the game, it probably would have been a very good Sonic game. This is also one of the last Sonic games to use the adventure-styled formula. On February 21st, 2006, Sonic Riders was released. This game introduced a new racing style for Sonic games. Sonic and his friends rode around on hoverboards called Extreme Gear. On January 8th, 2008, the sequel to Sonic Riders was released. It was called Sonic Riders Zero Gravity. On November 16, 2006, Sonic Rivals was released. It had mixed reception but was overall liked for its fun, fast-paced gameplay and multiplayer. It was criticized for bad controls and weird physics and the fact that the rival could catch up to you no matter how far you got ahead of them. It got a sequel in 2007, which was called Sonic Rivals 2. On November 6, 2007, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games was released. This game was the first crossover game that Mario and Sonic ever had. On February 20th, 2007, Sonic and the Secret Rings was released for the Wii. The game mainly sucked because the Wii controls were not the best ever, especially for a fast-paced platformer like Sonic the Hedgehog. It introduced Dark Spine Sonic though, which is still one of my favorite Sonic forms of all time. In 2008, Sonic was added to Smash Bros. At the time, this was monumental. Having these two in a game together was absolutely insane considering they were rivals at the time, and they are still rivals today. I main Sonic whenever I play Smash Bros. I've only played Smash Bros. Like 5 times, so I'm terrible. On November 18th, 2008, Sonic Unleashed was released. This was the game that brought the boost formula from Sonic Rush into 3D. The daytime stages were where the boost formula was implemented, and they were very fast and fun. This part of the game was highly praised. But the other part of Sonic Unleashed made it one of the most hated Sonic games of all time. The Hedgehog was the other half of the gameplay. The Hedgehog stages were hated because of 3 reasons. 1. The stages were around 30 minutes in length. 2. The stages were slow and combat focused. 3. The stages were incredibly difficult. The difficulty of the Hedgehog stages was the main reason Unleashed was hated. Nowadays, fans have grown to love Sonic Unleashed and is considered by some fans to be their favorite Sonic game. On March 3rd, 2009, Sonic and the Black Knight was released for the Wii. This was the second and final game in the storybook series, the first one being Sonic and the Secret Rings. The music in Sonic and the Black Knight is some of the best in the series, especially Night of the Wind. The graphics were impressive at the time as well. However, the game was short and the gameplay was a little bit too repetitive, but Sonic and the Black Knight is still a pretty fun Sonic game. Overall, in the 2000s, we had some good Sonic games and some very bad Sonic games. The extremely good ones were released in the beginning of the 2000s, the terrible ones were released in the middle of the 2000s, and the okay ones were released in the end of the 2000s. The 2000s were a very interesting time for Sonic games, and they did not really help Sonic succeed. The 2000s was probably the worst era for Sonic content, but it was not terrible overall. If you want to know everything Sonic in the 2020s and everything Sonic in the 2010s, I suggest you go to my channel and watch the videos I have made about those two eras. I will be making a video on everything Sonic released in the 1990s, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, that's it for today, and if you liked the video, you should subscribe, and I will see you all later. Doo-doo stuff out. The 2010s were a very hard time for Sonic games. At the beginning of the 2010s, some of the best Sonic games ever were released. Then in the middle and end of the 2010s, it became sort of bad. I'm Doo-doo stuff, and today we'll be looking at everything Sonic released in the 2010s. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe and check out my other videos. I am sure you will enjoy them. Anyway, let's get started. On November 11th, 2010, Sonic Colors was released for the Wii. This game was loved by Sonic fans. The zones and level design were very well made and interesting. Sonic Colors has some of the best level environments in the entire series. Notably, things such as Sweet Mountain and Planet Wisps are some of my favorites. The Wisps were a new mechanic and they were very fun to mess around with. Right now in 2025, Wisps are not used in mainline Sonic games, but they are a staple in the racing games such as Sonic Racing CrossWorlds and Team Sonic Racing. Sonic Colors was a huge success, being known as one of the best Sonic games of all time. On February 23rd, 2010, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing was released. This game was very fun. It was very fast-paced and had very good track design. It had a large roster of characters to play as, and it was one of the best Sonic racing games at the time, and it's a really fun game. You should definitely go check it out right now if you haven't already. On October 7th, 2010, Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 1 was released. It was meant to be a 2D classic Sonic game with modern Sonic, but the controls sucked, and so did the physics. It was not very fun to play at all. It got a sequel called Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 2 in 2012. It was much better than the first game, but still not very interesting. On November 4th, 2010, Sonic Free Riders was released. This introduced a new racing style for Sonic games. The characters used hoverboards known as Extreme Gear to race. The game was very fast-paced and fun. There were two other Sonic Riders games as well, Sonic Riders and Sonic Riders Zero Gravity. These were the best Sonic racing games of all time until Sonic Racing CrossWorlds came out in 2025. The next year, Sonic Generations was released. It came out on November 1st, 2011. It used a mix of modern and classic Sonic gameplay, which was done really well. It was my favorite Sonic game for a while. It reused pretty much every single Sonic level since the beginning of the series. The game had nearly zero flaws. The only flaw in this game was that the story was not interesting and very simple. This had been a small flaw in Sonic Colors as well, because the story was simple, but the difference is that it was a little bit interesting. In Sonic Generations, it was not really interesting to me, but I mainly care about the gameplay of Sonic games, and I didn't really focus on the story that much. As long as the game is fun, I'll enjoy it. On October 18th, 2013, Sonic Lost World was released. It came out on the Wii U. This was a Sonic game that was very controversial for the fans. The main issue was that Sonic moved way too slow. This game was on a Nintendo console, so it was mainly made to please Nintendo fans, not Sonic fans. But I actually really enjoyed Sonic Lost World. Once you get past the fact that Sonic has a run button, it actually becomes really fun. The levels use platforming and parkour mechanics extremely well. I really did not dislike Sonic Lost World. That might even be one of my favorite Sonic games of all time. In 2013, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed was released. This game was one of the best Sonic racing games at the time. It was the sequel to Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Then, in 2014, there were bad Sonic games again. The Sonic Boom series had begun. It had a TV show which was actually pretty funny and I actually enjoyed it. But the bad part was the 3 games that were released across the course of 2014 all the way to 2016. Shattered Crystal, Fire and Ice, and Rise of Lyric. These games were all universally hated for bad gameplay, not being fun to play at all, and just like Sonic 06, they were considered some of the worst video games ever released at the time. In 2017, there was a good Sonic game and a bad Sonic game. The good Sonic game was Sonic Mania, which was released on August 15, 2017. This game, unlike Sonic the Hedgehog 4, was a true revival of the classic Sonic games. The zones and level design were great. It is considered by many to be the best classic Sonic game of all time. In 2018, the next year, we got Sonic Mania Plus. This was a DLC for Sonic Mania that added in Mighty and Ray as playable characters. We also got Sonic Mania Adventures, which is an animated show, but it was still pretty cool. Then, a few months later, we got the bad Sonic game of the year. Sonic Forces was released on November 7th, 2017. This game was a bad Sonic game, but not a terrible one like Sonic Boom or Sonic 06. Some aspects of the game are good. I talked about those in a different video already, but the good aspects of the game still cannot save it. Now, I personally don't hate Forces, since it was my first Sonic game, but I have noticed the flaws. Sonic Forces was mainly hated because of its linear level design. Most of the time, you could just let go of everything on the controller and just hold down the boost button, and you would still be going through the level at top speed. If there was good level design in this game, it might have actually been a pretty good game. In 2019, we got Team Sonic Racing. This game was a step down from the previous racing titles like All-Stars Racing Transformed and Sonic Riders. This game had a dead online mode within 2 days. That was because the game was built around being a team with your friends, but it was so poorly designed that when you went into online mode, you couldn't even be in a team with your actual friends. Unless the thing that randomizes the teams put you and your friends together, but that was kind of unlikely. Overall, in the 2010s, we got a lot of Sonic content. It started off really good, but ended off on a bad note. But in all honesty, it wasn't that terrible. If you want to play some of the better games from the 2010s, I personally recommend Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, and Sonic Lost World. Those are my 3 favorite Sonic games from the 2010s. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. I made a video just like this going every single Sonic release in the 2020s, so be sure to check that out. And I'll be making another video like this soon on everything that was released in the 2000s. Anyway, that's it for today. See you next time. Doodoo Stuff out. Hello, I am Doodoo Stuff, and I would greatly appreciate it if you like and subscribe because we're trying to hit 400 subscribers. Anyway, let's get into it. The Sonic the Hedgehog series is loved or hated by many people. Sonic the Hedgehog started out in 1991, and it was great and well received until the early 2000s, when Sonic games started to become generally disliked until 2019, where the comeback of the Sonic series began. In 2020, the Sonic series was in the dark. The most recent mainline Sonic game was Sonic Forces, which was released in 2017, and that game flopped and was generally disliked. One Sonic game had released after Sonic Forces, and that was Team Sonic Racing, which was not very enjoyed by fans and had a dead online within 2 days. It had been 2 years since a mainline Sonic game in 2019, and the Sonic series was starting to slowly die out until a very fateful day for the Sonic series came about, and it would decide whether the series could come back or whether it would just be failed and it would never be good again. In early 2019, a trailer was uploaded for a Sonic movie. This was met with harsh reception due to Sonic's terrible looking design, and I agree. He looked like a literal demon. Sonic, what have they done to you? So the movie was delayed for redesign of Sonic. Sonic fans still expected the movie to fail anyway, until the next trailer was released and the design looked good. It looked more like Sonic, and fans' idea of the movie changed. Some were still skeptical about it, but others were starting to get very excited. If the movie succeeded, it could lead to new fans being brought to the Sonic series and old fans regaining hope for the series' future. It all depends on the movie. What if it failed? Would it be good? The people just had to wait. On February 14th, 2020, Sonic the Hedgehog was released. It was a massive hit, making $319 million worldwide, which was insane. It was so well received by fans and casual viewers that, in late 2021, a trailer for the second movie was released, showing that there would be Tails and Knuckles. This got fans even more excited. The Sonic series was gaining more and more attention. Would it be able to handle it? Well, yeah, it did. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was released on April 8, 2022. It made over $405 million in the box office, which is almost $100 million more than the first movie, which is insane. But it was announced that we have to wait until 2024 for another movie, so old and new fans turned to the Sonic video games, which is one of the most important parts of the entire franchise. Sonic Colors Ultimate was released on September 7th, 2021. It was a remaster of Sonic Colors that was released in 2010, which was one of the most well-received Sonic games at the time. At launch, the game was very buggy and unplayable, and there were lots of glitches that needed to be fixed, otherwise the game would have just been not fun to play at all, and fans and Sega knew this. This got fixed and I bought the game. It was a good amount of fun, but nothing truly special. On June 23rd, 2022, we got Sonic Origins. It was a remaster of every single classic Sonic game. This game allowed me to experience Sonic games that I hadn't played before. It was fun, but it was just another remaster, not a completely new game. Sonic Origins got DLC in 2023, which introduced Amy as a playable character and added in a remaster of all the Sonic Gamegear games. But that's pretty much it for Sonic Origins. It just wasn't a new game at all. In 2022, Sonic Prime was also released. It was an animated TV show. It had 3 seasons that were released across the span of 2022 and 2023. The show was about Sonic going through shattered spaces trying to bring back his friends. In every shattered space, there were Sonic's friends. They did not remember him, and it was only a part of his friend's personality. For example, 9 was only a little bit of Tails' personality. The first season was the best season, and the other seasons were a little bit worse, but they did not deserve to be hated on. Then, there was actually a new mainline Sonic game that was actually original and not just a remaster, and that really was what brought the series back. The last mainline Sonic game was released 5 years ago at this point, and people wanted a new game, not a spin-off like Team Sonic Racing, not a flop like Sonic Forces. They wanted a good Sonic game. Sonic Frontiers had its first bit of gameplay showcased in the middle of 2022, and fans were disappointed. They said it looked too much like other open-world games, and that it looked boring and worried that there would be nothing to do in the open world. But as more and more gameplay and trailers were released, fans started to realize something. Sonic Frontiers might actually be good. Some were skeptical, but others, like me at the time, were getting very excited for the game. On November 8th, 2022, the game was released, and fans loved it. The open world had so many things to do, and the gameplay was fun and challenging. Some aspects of the game were disliked, like cyberspace, which I don't understand why it was really hated, but the overall reception of the game was good. I enjoyed the game a lot and can say with confidence that Sonic Frontiers is my favorite Sonic game of all time. I was mostly into speedrunning it, that's why I played it a lot. While Sonic Frontiers was good, fans wanted more, and Sega heard that. So they announced 3 DLC updates that would be releasing in 2023. Fans were getting excited, and the best part was, it was free. You didn't have to pay to play the DLC. So, let's get into what the DLC actually was. On March 22nd, 2023, the Sights, Sounds, and Speed update was released for Sonic Frontiers. This update added the jukebox feature, which introduced collectibles around the Starfall Islands. When you collected a music note, you would get a song that came from a random game in the franchise. Then, there was a photo mode. Instead, it was a scam because Sega couldn't actually let you take photos with it. What's the point of a photo mode if you can't take photos? But it did allow me to take some cool screenshots, which are basically the same thing as photos, so I guess it's okay, and I guess it counts. It also introduced Battle Mode, which is a feature where you could face off against all the enemies on each Starfall Island to get the best time possible. Then there was Cyberspace Challenge Mode, which allowed you to race through all the cyberspace stages at once to get the best time possible. After playing around the new update for a couple months, the second update for Sonic Frontiers released. Sonic's Birthday Bash was the name for the second Sonic Frontiers update, being released on June 23rd, 2023 to celebrate Sonic's 32nd anniversary. There were birthday party decorations that could be applied to the Starfall Island, and even a costume for Sonic. Along with that came the Action Chain Challenges, which was the main part of the update. If you completed all the Action Chain Challenges, you would unlock the Spin Dash, which was a feature originally planned for the game but was later scrapped. At least they came back in this update though, because it's really fun to play around with. The Spin Dash changes the entire way you play Sonic Frontiers. You can take more shortcuts and levels, cross gaps for Bottomless Pit a lot easier. I would recommend unlocking the Spin Dash if you do have Sonic Frontiers. Also, it introduced New Game Plus, which was a way where you could play the game, but you start with all of your abilities in Sonic Frontiers instead of just starting without any abilities at all, which was actually really useful and it's actually cool because you can start the game with the Spin Dash if you just want to play a new game and have the Spin Dash as well, instead of just having to unlock it all again. Anyway, that's all that happened in Update 2, and then, finally, the third update release, which was the most anticipated update, and it would change the entire ending of Sonic Frontiers. Final Horizon. This update intended to fix the ending of Sonic Frontiers because the original ending felt very rushed and unfinished. It was also going to add Tails, Knuckles, and Amy as playable characters. In this update, it was the best Amy has probably ever played in the Sonic game. The other characters played very well, but I think they still played better in the adventure games. On September 28, 2023, the Final Horizon was released. I remember staying up very late to play it because I had gotten so excited for it. I probably shouldn't have done that, but what happened is just what happened. Was the update good though? Did it fix any of the game? Were the characters fun to play as? Yes, they were. The characters were very fun to play as, but there were some times they were criticized, such as the glide for Knuckles taking way too long to start. That was changed later on, so that's a W for Sonic Team for listening to the fans. This is just random, but YouTube is telling me that 76% of you are not subscribed, so subscribe. I remember watching a video saying that Knuckles had a better glide in the beta files of the game, which, if that is true, I don't know why Sonic Team decided to add in that terrible glide. I'll leave a link to the video in the description if I can find it. A new form for Sonic was revealed, known as Super Sonic 2 by many fans, or Cyber Sonic. The Final Horizon fixed the ending of the game, and that was primarily why Sonic Frontiers 2 became one of my favorite Sonic games of all time. Overall, Frontiers proved that Sega could make good Sonic games again, and that was true, and people were starting to get hope for the Sonic franchise once again. Now that fans were getting excited for the reveal of the next Sonic game. Before the Final Horizon came out, there was a trailer for a new classic Sonic game. It was called Sonic Superstars, and it will be released on October 17th, 2023. People looked at the gameplay and the art style and thought that Superstars had the potential to be the best Sonic game ever. More and more was revealed, and the fans could not wait. You were just getting finished with Final Horizon, and now there was going to be another new Sonic game releasing around a month later. That was just crazy. I remember being very excited for the game. When it came out though, people were disappointed. Not with the game. The levels were not bad. It's just that Sonic Superstars was one of the hardest Sonic games ever made. Some were saying that it was actually the hardest Sonic game, and it was even harder than Sonic Unleashed. Now, besides the boss stage, the gameplay outside of that was great. I believe Superstars was the best the classic Sonic game has ever controlled, and I do love the art style. I like it more than 16-bit. I just love 2.5D art styles, and I think it looks really good. But I do understand that people did not like the spike in difficulty, especially in the later levels of the game. Some of the most hated bosses in the entire game were the Fang boss, in the main story and Trip story, which I never actually beat. I used the speedrun skip to skip this boss in both of the stories, and I'm never going to actually try and beat it. And also, the main story's final boss was hated. I actually beat this one, but I used this glitch that makes you Super Sonic for an infinite amount of time. That way you can't take damage, so it probably doesn't count. And the Trip story final boss, it took me 3 hours to skip this boss, but I probably would not have beat it in those 3 hours anyway, so I guess it was worth it. And the final Purple Dragon boss that came out of nowhere and was really funny to a lot of people, myself included. I never actually beat this boss because I thought the gameplay was boring, so I can't really give an opinion on the actual fight. I believe there was an animation that was released with a mural depicting the Purple Dragon, but I'm not sure. It was like 2 years ago, so I can't really remember that much. Sorry. You guys can correct me all you want in the comments, by the way. I'd love to know if you guys know anything about this. After a while, the glitches and the speedrun skips were removed, which kind of killed my enjoyment of the game a lot. But I did go back and try playing it before recording this video, and I did have some fun times. But I still couldn't beat the Fang boss, and it's been 2 years, and I have to try and do it at some point. Anyway, enough about that. After Superstars was released and was met with some mixed receptions, the game was overall considered good, so no one really thought much about it. Superstars did get some LEGO skins and Shadow skins released, but no major DLC like Sonic Frontiers did. So, we've gotten so much Sonic content in 2023, but there is no way we could get more Sonic content, right? Nah, we got an entirely new Sonic game. This game was Sonic Dream Team. This game was good, but there were some issues. The Sonic community didn't dislike the gameplay or the actual game, but they disliked the accessibility of the game. The game was unlimited to mobile devices. That is a downgrade, but here's another problem. It was only on Apple devices. And guess what? If you thought I couldn't get any more limited or worse, you had to have a paid Apple Arcade subscription. I was able to get a 6-month free trial, which is how I actually played the game. But besides accessibility, was the game good? Yeah, it was. It was so good that it could be compared to 3D Sonic games that were on consoles. The controls were great. Some things you could not do with Stomp, but since it was a mobile game, the controls were very limited. And I didn't really mind. There were 6 playable characters in the game, and they were all categorized into types. The speed types were Sonic and Amy. The flying types were Cream and Tails. The gliding and climbing types were Rouge and Knuckles. This offered 3 different playstyles to the game, which was great. This allowed you to take different routes and levels based on which character you were playing as. There were 4 total zones in the game, and they were all great. The aesthetic and music was pleasing. Sonic Dream Team's success had Sega planning more mobile Sonic games, with Sonic Rumble supposed to release in November 2025. I hope the game actually releases this time, though. Overall, Sonic Dream Team was another success for the Sonic series, giving fans even more hope that games in the series were starting to become really good again. Then, we were in the dark for a few months until Sonic X Shadow Generations was revealed. Sonic Team was going to remaster Sonic Generations, one of the best Sonic games of all time. People were confused why Sonic Generations needed a remaster, but that is a topic that I covered in another video. Soon after, Sonic Movie 3 was revealed, and there was Shadow in it as a new character. All this Shadow content had Sega dubbed 2024 as the year of Shadow, trying to focus all their content on Shadow instead of Sonic in the year 2024. On October 25th, 2024, Sonic X Shadow Generations was released. This was also the first Sonic game that I bought on the day that it was released. The Sonic Generations part of the game had some new features. There was a drop dash for both classic Sonic and modern Sonic. But there were unfortunately some problems. The original version of Sonic Generations got delisted from every store, meaning that if you wanted to play Sonic Generations, you had to buy Sonic X Shadow Generations. Another problem was that all the cutscenes were rewritten. It should have been fine if the cutscenes were also reanimated, because sometimes the characters in the old cutscenes will be talking about something, but in the new game, where those things are not mentioned, it seems very off. Now, Shadow Generations was the main part of the game. I am not joking when I say that the levels in this game have the best level design in maybe the entire series. One 3D stage in this game is about 5 to 6 minutes of gameplay. One 2D stage is about 2 to 3 minutes. These stages are long, but not boring. My favorite stage is Kingdom Valley because of all the different paths that you were able to take. Later, before the third Sonic the Hedgehog movie released, we got a Tokyo DLC for Shadow Generations. You did have to buy a digital deluxe version to be able to play this stage, but the stage was amazing. The animation really showed Sonic Team had improved their animation skills in Sonic Frontiers. Now we move on from Shadow Generations to Sonic the Hedgehog 3 that came out in theaters only a few weeks later. On December 20th, 2024, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 came out in theaters. It was a massive success. It was the second highest earning video game movie of all time, losing to the Super Mario Bros. Movie. It made $462 million in the box office, almost $60 million more than the second film. The success of the Year of Shadow was great, and it was nice to have all the attention focused on a different character instead of Sonic for 1 year. Now, we move on to the current year, 2025. At the beginning of 2025, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds was announced. It was a new Sonic Racing title, but fans were skeptical. The last racing title, Team Sonic Racing, from 2019, had a dead online mode within literally 2 days of the game releasing. Honestly, I was not going to pay much attention to Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. The CrossWorld mechanics seemed cool, but not revolutionary. Now, though, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds is one of my top 3 favorite Sonic games, and I have over 60 hours in the game, but that's for later. Sega decided to let the fans play the game for a free closed network test for the game. You had to sign up to play, and personally, I didn't sign up, but from looking at videos and live streams of the beta, people were saying it was fun, but the items needed to be severely nerfed. So Sega listened. In August, Sega released an open network test for the game for anyone to try out without signing up. The open network test is how I discovered CrossWorlds and made me decide to buy the game when it came out. Around a month later, on September 22nd, 2025, the game was released for digital deluxe owners like me. One unfortunate fact is that the day I bought this game was the day I broke my finger, so I had to get a cast and surgery later that week. As of this recording, my cast is off and I am feeling a lot better. Mostly because I don't have a 10-pound weight amount on my entire arm. And anyway, that's a story for later. But let's get back on track. CrossWorlds was amazing, and right now I'm currently at Legend 9 rank. I'll make a video talking about how my rank got that high, but actually that video's out right now. I feel like over the years, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds will be remembered as the best Sonic Racing game, especially with the CrossWorlds gimmick. With the CrossWorlds gimmick, the person in first place at the end of the first lap can choose which track you go to for your second lap, which makes it so that 2 races will never be the same. So far, at the time of recording this, we have 2 confirmed Sonic projects releasing. Sonic Rumble will be releasing on November 5th. By the time you see this video, it's probably out already, and I feel like Sega killed all the hype for the game, considering it was going to be released in December 2024, I believe, but then it got delayed. The other project is Sonic Movie 4, releasing on March 19th, 2027, around 2 years from now. Overall, the 2020 era of Sonic brought the series back, and I will probably make another video like this in 5 years if I still do YouTube in 2030, looking at all the Sonic content released from 2020 to 2030. Anyway, remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Doodoo Stuff out. Sonic is probably going to keep on going for a very long time, as he has shown no signs of stopping. Hey, I'm Doodoo Stuff, and if you enjoyed the video, you should like and subscribe so you can see more videos like this, and I'll see you all later.